stood in the docking bay of Nexus Prime Station and tried not to feel small. All around him, aliens moved with purpose and confidence. They were huge. Even the smallest ones reached 7 feet tall, with thick limbs and armored skin. Some had multiple arms. Others had natural weapons like claws or spikes growing from their bodies. He was 5 feet 9 inches. Back on Earth, that was average. Here he looked like a child. The station itself was massive beyond belief. Metal corridors stretched in every direction, wider than highways back home. The ceiling disappeared into darkness far above. Ships came and went through the enormous docking ports, some as large as city blocks. Had never felt so tiny in his entire life. "You human," a voice clicked and buzzed behind him. Turned, stood there, its insect-like body towering over him. 4 arms crossed over its chitinous chest. Its compound eyes reflected his image 1,000 times, making him look even smaller. "Yes," tried to sound confident. "You are the engineer from Earth." The mandibles clicked with what might have been amusement. "This is what your species sends." "I'm qualified for the position. I have degrees in." "Degrees?" The alien made a sound like grinding metal. "Follow me, try to keep up." The moved quickly on its 6 legs, had to jog to match its walking pace. Other aliens stopped to stare as he passed. He heard whispers in languages he didn't understand, but the tone was clear enough. They were laughing at him. They led him to a large chamber filled with other aliens. Some looked like walking trees with bark-covered skin. Others resembled living stone, their bodies made of crystal and rock. A few were covered in thick fur, with massive jaws full of sharp teeth. None of them looked friendly. "This is the human," one of the tree-like aliens asked. Its voice sounded like wind through leaves. "Earth's finest, apparently," they said. Several aliens made sounds that recognized as laughter. A particularly large stepped forward. It wore ornate markings on its carapace that suggested high rank. "I am counselor. I oversee this sector of the station. You will report to supervisor for work assignments." It gestured to another with armor. "Do not expect special treatment because your species is new. We judge by capability here." "I understand," said. "Do you?" Leaned down until its face was level with. "Look at yourself, human. You have no natural armor, no claws, no venom. Your bones would snap like twigs. Your skin tears like paper. What possible use could you be?" Felt heat rising in his face but kept his voice steady. "I'm an engineer. I solve problems." "We shall see." Straightened up. "Assign him to lower maintenance. Let's see if he can handle real work." The next 3 weeks were the hardest of his life. Lower maintenance meant crawling through tight spaces that larger aliens couldn't reach, fixing problems in areas filled with toxic fumes or extreme temperatures. The environmental suit they gave him was old and barely functional. Other workers got proper equipment, got scraps. He worked 12-hour shifts, sometimes longer. When pipes burst or machines failed, was the one who had to squeeze into impossible spaces to make repairs. The work was dangerous. Every day, he came back to his tiny quarters covered in burns, cuts, and bruises. But he never complained. He just did the work. One day, he was working in a ventilation shaft when he heard voices below. He recognized clicking speech. "The human is still alive. I'm surprised." "Barely," another voice responded. "He looks ready to break. Perhaps we should send him back to Earth before he dies here. It would be embarrassing." "No, let him stay. Let him learn that his kind is not meant for the stars. When he breaks, when he begs to go home, then Earth will understand its place." Stayed silent in the shaft above them. His hands gripped his tools tightly. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction. He would not break. 3 days later, another human arrived. Her name was, assigned to study the station's ecosystem. She was small-like, with kind eyes and a quiet determination. Within hours of her arrival, heard the same mocking comments he had endured. Another fragile human. Why does Earth keep sending them? At least this one might be useful in a laboratory. The male is only good for crawling through pipes. Met in the communal eating area. She sat alone at a table meant for much larger beings looking lost. The food dispensers are over there, he said, sitting across from her. Fair warning, most of it will taste terrible. Human digestive systems aren't compatible with everything here. She smiled weakly. Thanks, I'm. Welcome to Nexus Prime. Is it always like this? She asked quietly. The way they look at us. Yes, they think we're weak, useless. He took a bite of something that tasted like plastic mixed with metal. They're waiting for us to fail. Will we? Thought about the 3 weeks he'd survived. The burns, the exhaustion, the constant mockery. He thought about crawling through spaces that should have killed him, fixing problems while breathing toxic air, working until his body screamed for rest. No, he said, we won't. That night, alarms blared throughout the station, rushed to the command center with other workers. On the massive, 5 enormous ships appeared. They were unlike anything had ever seen, sleek and predatory, covered in armor that seemed to absorb light. The room went silent. Every alien froze. What is it? Whispered to a nearby worker. The alien, a furry creature with massive claws, looked at him with wide eyes. The apex predators, the galaxy's greatest hunters. Its voice shook with fear. They've come to the station. Even Counselor stood rigid, its usual arrogance replaced by something had never seen before. Fear, pure, absolute fear. All personnel to stations, his voice crackled over the speakers. Prepare for boarding party, full diplomatic protocols. No one provokes them. No one looks them in the eye unless they speak to you first. Is that understood? Watched the ships grow larger on the screen. Whatever they were, they commanded more respect in seconds than he had earned in 3 weeks. The station held its breath and waited for the hunters to arrive. The days following the announcement were tense. Every alien on the station moved with careful precision, following protocols had never seen before. Even the arrogant ones, like Counselor, spoke in quieter voices and moved with deliberate caution. Continued his work in the lower levels. Another human had joined the maintenance crew 2 weeks earlier, a technician named Minu. He was quiet and efficient, with steady hands and a mind for complex problems. He endured the mockery and dismissive treatment without complaint. They gave us the radiation leak in Section 12, Minu said one morning, handing a battered environmental suit. No one else wants to go near it. Of course they did, checked the suit seals. Half of them were cracked. This equipment is garbage. Better than nothing. Minu pulled on his own damaged suit. We patch it and hope. They spent 6 hours in Section 12, working in levels of radiation that would have hospitalized most species within minutes. The suits leaked. Could feel the heat on his skin, the tingling sensation that meant exposure. But they had a job to do, and no one else would do it. When they emerged, Supervisor barely glanced at them. Took you long enough. Section 9 needs cleaning. The waste processors failed. Minu closed his eyes briefly but said nothing, simply nodded. They would do it because they had to. Meanwhile, faced her own challenges. She worked in the biological research wing, where she was supposed to study alien microorganisms and help maintain the station's life support systems. The other scientists treated her like a clumsy child. Don't touch that, a crystalline scientist snapped when reached for a sample. Your soft hands might contaminate it. I'm wearing gloves, said calmly. Still step back, I'll handle it. But was thorough. She spent her nights studying reports that others ignored, reading through maintenance logs and biological scan data. She noticed patterns, small things, slight changes in the water recycling system, microscopic organisms appearing in places they shouldn't be. She brought her concerns to her supervisor, a tree-like being named. The water system is developing a contamination, she said, showing her data. These organisms multiply in warm environments if they spread. Your species has been in space for what, a few decades? Branches rustled with dismissal. We have maintained these systems for centuries. Do not presume to teach us about alien biology. But the data clearly shows. Enough, return to your assigned tasks. Stop wasting time on phantom problems. Returned to her workstation. She stared at the data for a long time. Then, quietly, she began working on a solution herself. If they wouldn't listen, she would fix it on her own. The fleet remained in orbit, silent and waiting. Finally, word came that a boarding party would arrive. The entire station, prepared like soldiers before battle, was working in a maintenance tunnel when the announcement came. He climbed out and headed toward the main concourse, curious to see what inspired such fear. The docking bay doors opened. Security personnel lined the corridor, standing at rigid attention. Counselor stood at the front, his usual arrogance completely absent. They came through the doors like living nightmares. They stood 9 feet tall, their bodies covered in dark scales that shifted colors in the light. They moved on powerful digitigrade legs, with triple-jointed arms that ended in clawed hands. Bioluminescent markings traced patterns across their bodies, pulsing with faint light. Their heads were predatory, with forward-facing eyes that gleamed with intelligence and rows of sharp teeth visible when they spoke. 5 entered the station. The largest one led them, its scales darker than the others, its markings glowing with deep red light. Every alien in the corridor lowered their eyes. Some physically backed away. The fear was palpable. Exhausted from 12 hours of work and not fully aware of the protocols, simply stood and watched. He found them fascinating. They moved with perfect coordination like wolves in a pack. Their eyes scanned everything, missing nothing. The lead stopped. Its head turned and its eyes locked onto. The entire corridor seemed to hold its breath. Realizing everyone was staring at him, gave a small nod, just a polite acknowledgement. Then he stepped aside to let the group pass and continued toward the maintenance office. Behind him he heard shocked whispers. Someone grabbed his arm. It was Minyu, his face pale. "Are you insane?" Minyu hissed. "You don't look at them. You don't acknowledge them unless they speak first. You could have gotten us all killed." "I didn't know," said honestly. "No one told me the rules." They don't tolerate disrespect. They're apex predators. They've conquered half the galaxy. One of them could tear through this entire station if they wanted. Looked back. The group had moved on, but he could see the lead one glancing back at him. Its expression was unreadable. "Sorry," said quietly. The incident should have ended there. But later that day, while was working in the lower levels, he heard that the leader had asked about him. Who was the small one in the corridor? They had asked Counselor. No one of importance, Great Warlord had responded quickly. Just a human, a weak species new to the coalition. He meant no disrespect. He's simply ignorant. Weak had tilted his head, fragile. Extremely so. No natural defenses, soft skin, brittle bones, they're barely useful for basic labor. Had said nothing more, but his eyes had lingered on the corridor where had been standing. 3 days later, the contamination had predicted began to show serious effects. The water recycling system started failing. Alien workers began getting sick. The organisms she had warned about had exponentially. Panic spread through the station. "Rushed to lab. You said something about contamination. What do we do?" Looked up from her work. She had spent the last 3 days preparing, knowing this would happen. "I've been working on a treatment protocol, but it requires accessing the main water processing units. Someone has to go inside and introduce the cleaning agents directly. The processing units are at 300 degrees. The pressure would crush most species." "I know, pulled on a damaged environmental suit. That's why I'll do it." And Minyu were called to assist. They met at the processing plant, all three of them in barely functional suits, preparing to enter an environment that should kill them. Supervisor watched them. If you die in there, it's not our responsibility. Understood, said. They went in together. The heat was unbearable. The pressure made every movement difficult. But they worked methodically, following instructions, introducing the cleaning agents at precise points throughout the massive system. 36 hours they worked. They came out briefly for water and food, then went back in. Burns covered their skin. Their suits were falling apart, but they didn't stop. Unknown to them, Warlord had been watching. He stood in the observation room above the processing plant, his eyes never leaving the three humans as they worked in conditions that would kill most species within minutes. He watched collapse from heat exhaustion, then get back up and continue working. He watched Minyu pull an unconscious worker from a flooded chamber, risking his own life to save someone who had mocked him. He watched coordinate the entire operation while treating workers who were sick from the contamination, her hands steady even as she swayed from exhaustion. Finally, after 36 hours, the system stabilized. The contamination was cleared. The station was safe. Stepped out of the processing plant and collapsed. His legs simply gave out. He sat on the floor, too tired to move. Someone lifted him effortlessly. Massive scaled hands held him gently, looked up into the eyes of Warlord. "You can walk." His voice was deep, resonant. "Yes, managed. Just need a minute." "You have earned more than a minute," carried him toward the medical bay. Around them, aliens stared in absolute shock. The apex predator of the galaxy was carrying a human, carefully, like something precious. Woke up in a medical bed. His body ached everywhere, but the burns had been treated and the exhaustion had faded to a manageable tiredness. He sat up slowly and found Warlord sitting in a chair beside the bed. The chair was too small for the. He looked uncomfortable, folded into the space, but he had waited anyway. "You are awake," said. His bioluminescent markings pulsed with soft blue light. "How long was I out?" 6 hours. Your companions are in other rooms, they also sleep." Leaned forward, his predatory eyes studying. "I have questions." "Okay," shifted to face him properly. "The others speak of your kind with contempt. They call you weak, fragile, useless." His head tilted, a distinctly predatory gesture. "Yet I watched you work in conditions that would kill most species. I watched you continue when your body screamed to stop. I watched you endure. Why do they scorn you?" Thought about how to answer. "We're small. We don't have natural weapons or armor. Compared to most species here, we're physically weak." "Physical strength is one measure, not the only measure." His claws tapped against the chair. "Tell me about your world, your Earth." "What do you want to know?" "Everything." So talked. He described Earth's gravity, stronger than most inhabited worlds. He explained about temperature variations, how humans lived everywhere from frozen tundras to scorching deserts. He talked about Earth's predators, the persistence of life, the way humans had survived and thrived despite having no claws, no venom, no armor. Listened with intense focus. When mentioned persistence hunting, the markings flared brighter. Explain this hunting method. "Our ancestors would track prey," said. "Not fast prey, but enduring prey, animals that could run faster than us. We couldn't catch them in a sprint, so we followed them for hours, for days sometimes. We tracked them until they collapsed from exhaustion. We didn't stop. We never stopped." His eyes gleamed. "You hunted through endurance." "Yes. Humans can run for longer than almost any other animal on Earth. We sweat to cool down, which means we don't overheat. We can keep going long after other predators would have given up." Smiled slightly. "We're persistent. Stubborn, some might say." This explains much. Stood, his full height making him tower over the bed. "My world, it is similar to yours. High gravity, extreme environments. My people evolved as persistence hunters as well. We do not kill with overwhelming strength alone. We kill with endurance, strategy, the refusal to yield. Understood now why I had been watching them. You recognize something. Yes, placed a clawed hand gently on shoulder. When I watched you in the processing plant, I saw a hunter. Small, yes, but a hunter nonetheless. You pursued your goal with the same relentlessness my people use in the hunt. This is why I ask questions. I wish to understand. The other species don't see it that way. The other species are fools. His voice held contempt. They measure worth by size and immediate strength. They do not understand the power of persistence, of refusing to break. He paused. There is a tradition among my people. When we recognize a kindred spirit, one who hunts as we do, who endures as we do, we may offer them a place in our pack. His heart beat faster. A place in your pack. Pack brother, it is a bond of family, of warriors who hunt together. His markings pulsed with deep red light. No alien species has ever been granted this honor, but I see in you and your companions something familiar, something my people respect. I don't know what to say. Say nothing yet, heal, rest, we will speak more. Moved toward the door, then paused. The one called counselor came to me. He said you disrespected me in the corridor when you looked at me and nodded. He demanded I punish you. Tensed, I didn't mean disrespect. I just didn't know the protocols. I know, his teeth showed in what might have been a smile. I told that you showed proper acknowledgement, warrior to warrior, equal to equal. His face became most interesting colors. This laugh was like grinding stones. He does not know what to think now. Good, let him wonder. After left lay back down. His mind raced. A warlord wanted to make him pack brother. The implications were enormous. 2 days later was cleared from medical. He found and Minu in the communal area. They looked as shocked as he felt. Spoke to you too, asked. Yes, about Earth, about hunting, about pack bonds. Minu nodded slowly. He asked me about human engineering, about how we solve problems. I told him about the Apollo 13 mission, the astronauts who survived a disaster in space through improvisation and persistence. He seemed fascinated. He asked me about human biology, added, our healing abilities, our immune systems, how we adapt to different environments. She looked at both of them. I think he's serious about this pack brother thing. The station's dynamics had already begun to shift. Word had spread that personally carried to Medical Bay, that he had waited by his bedside, that he had defended against counselors' complaints. Other aliens watched the three humans differently now, not with respect exactly, but with fear. If they valued these humans, then perhaps they had been wrong to dismiss them. Tried to salvage the situation. He summoned to his office. The R, impressed by you, said, his mandibles clicking nervously. This is good for your species, for Earth's relationship with the Coalition. You told Warlord I was weak and useless, said calmly. A misunderstanding. Clearly I underestimated human capabilities. Compound eyes avoided its gaze. I am prepared to offer you better quarters, better equipment, more suitable assignments. Because they respect us now. Because we all must adapt our understanding. Shifted uncomfortably. Surely you see this is better for everyone. Stood, I'll continue doing my job, counselor. The same job I've been doing. The same way I've been doing it. If you want to treat me better, that's your choice. But I'm not going to pretend the last month didn't happen. He left before could respond. Outside, he found waiting in the corridor. I heard the conversation, said. These walls are thin to my ears. Sorry, I probably should have been more diplomatic. Why, you spoke truth. Truth is the foundation of the pack. Its markings glowed with approval. There is someone I want you to meet, a human who arrived today with the supply ship. She is unlike you and your companions. They found her in the training area. She was small like all humans, but she moved with fluid grace. Her name was Sara, and she was a combat specialist. She wore simple training clothes and was stretching, preparing for exercise. Sara called, "Come meet your fellow humans." She approached and greeted them with a warm smile. "Heard about you three. You're famous now, the humans who impressed the—" "We just did our jobs," Minyu said. "In an oven that should have killed you for 36 hours, while everyone else stood around." Sora grinned. "That's impressive whether you want to admit it or not." Gestured to the training area. "Sora has agreed to spar with me. I wish to understand human combat methods." What followed was a lesson in persistence. Sora couldn't match strength or reach. His claws could have torn her apart, but she was fast. She was adaptable. When she got hit, she rolled with it, absorbed the impact, and came back. She didn't try to overpower him. She tried to outlast him. After 30 minutes, both were breathing hard. Had won, but Sora had made him work for it. "Remarkable," said. "You fight like youth. Not with full strength yet, but with the spirit of the hunt. You endure, you adapt, you refuse to yield." "That's the human way," Sora said, accepting water from. "We're stubborn like that." Looked at all four humans, his expression was thoughtful. "Tomorrow I will hold a formal ceremony. I will offer you pack brotherhood, all of you. Consider carefully, it is a permanent bond. You would be family to the forever." After he left, the four humans looked at each other. "This is crazy," Minyu whispered. "This is an opportunity," countered. "This is dangerous," added. "Other species won't like it, we'll make enemies." Sora shrugged. "We were going to make enemies anyway. At least this way, we have family watching our backs." They had until tomorrow to decide, but deep down, already knew what his answer would be. The ceremony took place in the largest gathering hall on Nexus Prime. News had spread throughout the station, and aliens came from every sector to witness something that had never happened before. Though the galaxy's apex predators were about to grant pack brotherhood to aliens. Stood at the center of the hall, flanked by his four warriors. The other were slightly smaller than him, but no less intimidating. Their scales gleamed under the lights, and their bioluminescent markings pulsed in synchronized patterns. Minyu and Sora entered the hall together. Every eye turned to watch them. Some aliens looked curious. Others looked angry. Counselor stood in the crowd, his mandibles clicking rapidly with agitation. "Come forward, humans." His voice resonated through the hall. They walked to the center and stood before the warriors. Spoke in his own language first, a series of growls and resonant sounds that made the air vibrate. Then he switched to the common trade language so everyone could understand. "For thousands of generations that have walked alone among the stars, we respect strength, we honor the hunt, we value those who refuse to yield." His eyes swept across the four humans. "We thought ourselves unique in this regard. We were wrong." He gestured too. This one endured heat and radiation that would kill most species. He worked for 36 hours without stop. He saved this station. His hand moved to Minyu. This one risked his life to save another worker, even though that worker had shown him nothing but contempt. 2. This one saw danger when others were blind. She acted when others hesitated. Her knowledge and persistence saved hundreds of lives. Finally to Sora. This one fights with the spirit of a hunter. She knows she cannot win through strength alone, so she endures. She adapts. She refuses to yield. Markings flared bright red. "These traits are traits. These are the qualities we value above all others. I have watched these humans. I have spoken with them. I have hunted their nature through conversation and observation, and I declare before all gathered here that they are worthy." He drew a ceremonial blade from his belt. The metal gleamed, etched with patterns that hurt to look at directly. "By the ancient laws of my people, by the bonds that tie pack to pack, I offer you pack brotherhood. You will be family to the. Your enemies will be our enemies. Your struggles will be our struggles. Your victories will be our victories." He looked at each of them. "Do you accept?" Spoke first. "I accept." "I accept," said quietly. "I accept," Minyu added. "I accept," Sora finished. Nodded. He made a small cut on his own palm, then did the same for each human. The blood mixed, dark red and bright red together. Words were spoken in the tongue, ancient words of binding and pack. When it was done, raised his voice. Let all species know. These four are pack brothers to thee. To harm them is to harm us. To disrespect them is to disrespect us. They are under our protection. They are family. The hall was silent. Then slowly the other four warriors struck their chests with closed fists, a salute of respect. The sound echoed like thunder. Some aliens bowed, others simply stared, looked like he might collapse. After the ceremony, the dynamics on the station changed completely. Was given proper quarters, real equipment, and assignments that matched his skills. So were and Minyu. When workers saw them coming, they stepped aside respectfully. It was jarring. A week ago, had been crawling through toxic waste. Now, aliens who had mocked him refused to meet his eyes out of respect. But the four humans didn't let it change them. They still did their work with the same dedication. They still helped with problems others avoided. The only difference was now they had resources to do it better. Invited them to his ship one evening. It was massive, a warship designed for hunting and combat. The interior was darker than human ships, with ambient lighting that matched vision. The air was warm and smelled of something sharp and metallic. My clan is curious about you, said, leading them through corridors. I have told them much, but they wish to meet you themselves. They entered a large chamber where more waited. There were at least 20 of them, ranging from warriors to what looked like scholars and engineers. All eyes turned to the humans. An older stepped forward, her scales bearing scars from countless battles. I am elder, I helped raise. He speaks highly of you, but I must see for myself. Tell me, small ones, what drives you? What makes you endure when wisdom would say to quit? Thought carefully. On Earth there's a saying, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. We don't give up, it's not in our nature. Even when the odds are impossible. Especially then, Sora said. Humans have survived impossible odds for our entire history. Ice ages, predators, diseases, each other. We're still here because we don't know when to quit. Markings pulsed with approval. Stubbornness as a survival trait. Interesting. They spent hours with the clan. Stories were shared. Told them about human history, about expeditions to the poles, about climbing impossible mountains, about going to space on primitive rockets. They shared their own stories of hunts that lasted months, of prey that should have escaped but didn't because the hunters refused to stop. The similarities were striking. Both species had evolved on death worlds. Both had survived through persistence rather than overwhelming power. Both valued the same traits: endurance, adaptability, and the refusal to yield. We should train together, one of the younger warriors suggested. Learn from each other's methods. Agreed, Sora said immediately. Over the next week, an unusual sight became common on the station, and humans training together. Sora teaching them human martial arts while they taught her combat techniques. Minyu and working with engineers on ship systems, learning each other's approaches to problem solving. Collaborating with biologists, sharing knowledge about adaptation and survival. Other species watched with a mixture of awe and fear. The two most stubborn, persistent species in the galaxy were now sharing information, working together, becoming family. Then word came of trouble. A coalition transport ship had been attacked in a nearby system. Pirates, a group called the Horde. They were known for brutal efficiency and overwhelming numbers. The Coalition Council debated what to do: send a military fleet, negotiate. The discussion dragged on. Stood up in the middle of the debate. We'll respond. We will hunt these pirates. Counselor objected. This is a coalition matter. We must follow proper procedures. Your procedures are slow. People are dying. Eyes gleamed. We will hunt. We will find them. We will end them. You cannot simply. I can. I will. turned to where Minu and Sora sat in the observation area. "Pack brothers, will you join the hunt?" They didn't hesitate. "Yes," all four said in unison. Sputtered, "This is highly irregular. Humans have no combat experience in space. They'll be liabilities." Slav was cold. "You still do not understand. They are hunters like us. They see what others miss. They endure when others quit. They will be assets, not liabilities." He looked at the council. "We leave within the hour. Any who wish to join are welcome. Any who wish to debate can stay here and debate among themselves." The warriors filed out. The four humans followed. In the corridor, Sora grinned. "So we're going hunting with apex predators. This should be interesting." "Terrifying, you mean?" Minu said. "Same thing," replied. Overheard, and his markings pulsed with what might have been amusement. "Come, pack brothers, I will show you our ships. You will have roles to play. Humans think differently than, different perspective, different tactics. Together, we will be formidable." They boarded the flagship. As the massive ship pulled away from Nexus Prime Station, looked back at the station through a viewport. A month ago, he had arrived there feeling small and unwelcome. Now he was leaving as pack brother to the galaxy's apex predators, about to hunt pirates across the stars. "What are you thinking?" asked, standing beside him. "That life is strange," said. "A month ago they called us weak. Now we're hunting with. They were wrong about us." "Yes, but we needed to show them," he smiled. "Now we get to show the pirates too." The ship jumped to faster-than-light speeds, and Nexus Prime disappeared behind them. Ahead lay the hunt, and the four humans were ready for whatever came next. The flagship, named Hunter's Patience, moved through space like a predator stalking prey. 5 ships in total made up the hunting pack, each one filled with experienced warriors and deadly weapons, but had a different plan than simply overwhelming the pirates with firepower. "We could destroy them easily," he explained to the 4 humans gathered in his command chamber. "But that would scatter them. They would flee, regroup elsewhere, continue their attacks. No, we will hunt them properly, track them, corner them, make them understand they cannot escape." Studied the star charts displayed on the holographic table. "They hit the Coalition transport here, then disappeared. No trace." "There is always a trace," said. "We simply must be patient enough to find it." Leaned over the display. "Can I see the biological scans from the attacked ship? Even pirates leave organic evidence behind." A technician brought up the data, studied it for several minutes, her eyes scanning through information that meant little to anyone else. "There," she pointed. "Skin cells, hair, sweat. They are mammalian, right? These biological traces have specific isotope markers. They come from a planet with high sulfur content in the atmosphere. That narrows down their possible bases significantly." Markings flared with interest. "How many systems?" "Worked with the database. 7 within reasonable travel distance. But if we look at systems with asteroid fields where they could hide ships, 2, maybe 3. "That is excellent work." Looked at his navigators. "Plot courses to those systems. We will search them all." "That could take weeks," one of the warriors said. "Yes," agreed. "Hunting takes time. This is not a sprint. This is endurance. This is what we do." Minu spoke up. "If we're tracking them for weeks, we need to think about detection. They'll have sensors. If they see 5 warships coming, they'll run before we get close." "What do you suggest?" "Passive tracking. We don't go in with weapons hot and shields up. We drift. Use minimal power. Let them think we're just merchant ships or debris. We get close before they realize we're hunters." Sora nodded. "And we don't all approach from the same direction. We spread out, surround them slowly. By the time they realize what's happening, they have nowhere to run." His teeth showed in a predatory smile. "Yes, this is good thinking, pack tactics, different perspectives." He looked at his warriors. "We hunt as the humans suggest, slow, patient, surrounding, make them feel safe until it is too late." The first week was tedious. They searched the first system thoroughly, finding nothing. Moved to the second system. Still nothing. But kept finding traces, small biological markers that showed ships had passed through recently. They were here, she said, studying the latest scans. Within the last 10 days following this trajectory, she traced a path through the asteroid field. There, that cluster of asteroids, good hiding spot, multiple escape routes. But they are not there now, a sensor operator reported. No, but we're getting closer. Examine the data. Look at the pattern. They hit targets, then retreat to hide. Each time they go deeper into uncharted space. They have a base somewhere and they keep falling back toward it. Studied the star charts with new understanding. We are not just hunting them, we are hunting their home. Exactly. Chase them long enough and they'll lead us right to it. The second week was when they realized they were being followed. They tried to flee, but the ships maintained distance, never quite close enough to engage but never far enough to lose contact. It was maddening for the pirates. Monitored their communication channels. The pirates were getting panicked, frustrated, scared. They keep trying to lose us, he reported. But every time they think they've escaped, we pop up again. They don't understand how we keep finding them. Because we are patient, said. Because we do not give up. Because this is what hunters do. By the third week, the fleet was showing signs of stress. Ships broke formation. Arguments erupted over communication channels. They were exhausted from constant vigilance, from knowing predators stalked them but never seeing the final strike come. This is psychological warfare, Sara observed. We're not just chasing them physically, we're breaking them mentally, making them panic. Yes, agreed. A panic prey makes mistakes, and we are here to capitalize on those mistakes. The mistake came on the 21st day of the hunt. The fleet, desperate and exhausted, made a run for their hidden base. They thought they had enough distance to reach safety. They were wrong. The 5 ships had been positioned perfectly, surrounding the pirates from multiple directions. As the fleet entered a debris field, trying to use it for cover, the ships activated their weapons and closed in. The pirates found themselves trapped. Every direction they turned, there was a warship. The debris field that should have provided cover became their cage. Opened a communication channel. His voice resonated through space. Fleet, you are surrounded. You have 3 options. Surrender, fight and die, or run and be hunted until you can run no more. The leader, a creature with multiple eyes and armored plates, appeared on the screen. You are just 5 ships. We are 20. We will overwhelm you with numbers. You are exhausted. Your crews are terrified. Your ships are low on supplies because we have chased you for 3 weeks without rest. Eyes gleamed. But please try to fight. It will make the hunt more interesting. You cannot defeat us. We have faced before and survived. Stepped into view of the camera. Small human, unthreatening by pirate standards. Have you ever been hunted by humans? He asked quietly. The leader looked confused. What is a human? We're a species from a planet called Earth. We're small, weak by most standards, no natural weapons or armor. His voice remained calm. But we're very good at one thing. We never stop, ever. You've been running for 3 weeks. You're exhausted, scared, running out of supplies. We're not. We can do this for months if we need to. Years if it comes to that. The pirate leader laughed nervously. You are bluffing. Ask thee if humans bluff about persistence. Markings pulsed with approval. The human speaks truth. They are pack brothers to us because they hunt as we do, with patience, with endurance, with the absolute refusal to yield. You have been hunted by both our species. You cannot escape. You cannot outlast us. You have only one choice that ends with you living. The leader looked at his fleet. They had been running for 21 days. They were exhausted. They had seen the ships appear again and again, no matter where they fled. They had heard the calm, patient voices of hunters who would never stop coming. What are your terms? The pirate leader finally asked. Complete surrender, all ships, all weapons. You will face trial for your crimes, but you will live. The leader closed his eyes. We surrender. The pirate fleet powered down their weapons. Warriors boarded each ship, securing them quickly and efficiently. Not a single shot was fired. The hunt had broken the pirates without needing combat. Stood on his bridge, watching the surrender with satisfaction. A perfect hunt, patient, strategic, ending with the prey surrendering because they understood they could not escape. Stood beside him, still amazed at what had happened. 3 weeks. We chased them for 3 weeks. Yes, most species would have given up, would have declared it too costly, too time-consuming, but we are not most species. Placed a clawed hand on shoulder. This is what pack brothers do. We hunt together, we endure together, we win together. The journey back to Nexus Prime took 4 days. The captured pirate fleet followed, escorted by warships. When they arrived at the station, the docking bays were crowded with aliens waiting to see the result of the hunt. Counselor stood at the front, his mandibles clicking rapidly. Behind him, the Coalition Council had assembled. Led the 4 humans off the ship. They walked together, pack brothers, returning from a successful hunt. The horde is captured, announced. All ships, all pirates, they surrendered without combat. The crowd murmured in disbelief. There had been a plague on Coalition space for years. Multiple fleets had tried to stop them and failed. How asked? We hunted them. His voice was matter-of-fact. We tracked them. We chased them. We gave them no rest, no escape, no hope. After 3 weeks, they surrendered because they understood they could not outlast us. 3 weeks. Another counselor looked shocked. You pursued them for 3 weeks without giving up. That is what hunters do, gestured to the 4 humans. My pack brothers were instrumental in the success, tracked their biological traces. Minyu suggested stealth tactics, coordinated communications and psychological warfare. Sora provided combat strategies. We worked as one pack. This is the result. The crowd looked at the 4 humans with new understanding. Small, yes. Physically weak compared to most species, yes. But capable of something most species could not do, hunt with perfect persistence for 3 weeks without stopping. Stepped forward. On behalf of the Coalition Council, I apologize for our previous treatment of humanity. We clearly misunderstood your species' capabilities. Apology noted, said simply. He wasn't interested in grand speeches. The work spoke for itself. That night held a feast aboard his flagship, and humans celebrated together, sharing food and stories. The barrier between species had dissolved completely. They were pack now, family. What will you do next? Asked the 4 humans. Go back to work, said. The station still needs maintenance. You could do more. With pack brother status, you could command fleets, lead diplomatic missions. You have proven yourselves. Smiled, maybe eventually. But for now, we're happy just doing what we do, fixing problems, helping people, being stubborn humans. Laughed, the sound like rocks grinding together. Stubborn indeed. This is why you are family. Days later, formal ceremonies were held. Earth was granted full Coalition membership with every privilege and right. Humanity's embassy on Nexus Prime was established with proper resources. More humans began arriving, and they were treated with respect. The story of the hunt spread across the galaxy. How Inhumans worked together. How persistence and patience defeated a threat that brute force could not. How the small, weak species proved to be apex predators in their own right. Other predator species approached humanity with interest. Some offered alliances. Others requested joint training exercises. The galaxy was relearning what it meant to be a predator, and humans were teaching them that size wasn't everything. Stood in the observation deck one evening, watching ships come and go, found him there. You are thinking again, the said. Just remembering. A few months ago I arrived here, small, weak, scorned by everyone, smiled. Now I have family in the galaxy's apex predators. Life is strange. not strange, correct, stood beside him. They scorned you because they saw only your size. They did not see your spirit. They did not understand that the fiercest hunters are not always the largest. Sometimes they are the most persistent, the most stubborn, the ones who refuse to yield. Thank you for seeing that. Thank you for showing me that we are not alone in the hunt, that there are others who share our way. His markings pulsed warmly. You are pack brother, you are family, and anyone who harms you will learn what it means to be hunted by both our species together. Looked up at the massive predator beside him and felt something he hadn't expected to feel when he first arrived at this station. He felt safe. He felt welcome. He felt home. To the pack, he said quietly. To the pack, agreed, forever. Outside, the stars shone bright, and humanity had claimed its place among them not through strength or size, but through the simple, stubborn refusal to ever give up.